Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first annual anniversary of the BT Speak. Tonight, we're going to highlight the release, the latest update, which we're very excited about, and I'm going to turn that over to our team. Before we get there, I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight and for being customers of Blazie Technologies, and for all of you are doing to help make the BT Speak the wonderful product that it is today, and for becoming an even better product as we move this forward. Blazie Technologies was started to bring excellent technology to blind people. My father and I felt that the technology had stagnated and that nobody was moving the Braille and Speak type thing forward. So we decided to do something about that and came out with a BT Speak. And my brothers have joined us. Chris and Stephen are here. They're going to say something in just a moment. And together we are trying to bring back the Blazie level of service and innovation into the technology for the blind again. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris. You want to say a word or two?
Yeah, sure. Am I live?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for joining, everyone. I think some of you may have listened to the Tech Doctor podcast last month, but just in case, I'll give a very quick intro. I have a background in computer science, and I've spent most of my career leading software teams. Most recently, I was with Abbott Laboratories working on medical device technologies. We worked on the COVID test and some other things, and I left in December 2023 to join this project. I'm not a big online presence like David and Ben and Dean and Brian, but I want to stress that I do follow email list traffic, our support email list. And for those of you who don't know what that is, I encourage you to reach out because we can let you in, and you can kind of see what's going on with our development process here. And we have some very interesting projects in the pipeline. All I can say right now is stay tuned. There's some cool stuff coming out. Thank you, everyone. Back to you, David.
Stephen, you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Well, Dean just joined the meeting. You want to say?
Hello.
Hi, Dean.
Dad?
Here.
Got you.
You want to tell us a little bit about your involvement here and your feelings about Blazie Technologies?
Well, yeah, you pretty much told it. We were playing around with some technology, 3D printing, and a Raspberry Pi board, and we realized, I said, gee, we could make a Braille Speak really nice with this new technology, running a real operating system and a better speech and lightweight, small, all of that. So this was about 4 years ago. I think we started on this, didn't we? Something like that. And anyway, here we are today. The BT Speak is out, and it's getting better all the time. We have a pretty good team of software people working on it. Some volunteers and some paid, and we're really making a lot of progress. I'm very, very pleased with that. I think if you look on the BT Speak list, you'll see people really seem to like it, and I'm very pleased. Got a lot of great comments. And I think it's a long-term product too, by the way. I think it'll be around, 10 years from now, because it's based on a general free operating system, and it's very, very powerful. And we didn't have that with the Braille and Speak. All we had was a hard-coded, no operating system underneath. We kind of had to write our own little pieces. So that's where we are now, and we're all working away at things. So back to you, Brian, or whoever's leading the meeting.
Stephen, you want to chime in?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I want to echo Brian's thank you to our users and our beta testers. All of you have been, you've offered suggestions and your enthusiasm, your critique, all of it has been really important for molding the BT Speak into what it's become. And I think along with our developers who have done incredible work on this, they've been more than superhuman, really inspiring. I think that you're going to see BT Speak in this next year start to live out its promise of becoming something more than your traditional note taker that we've seen around for so many years. And you're going to see it evolve into something really special, given its Linux open source character. So I'll keep this really short because I know we want to get to demonstrating many of the exciting new features that the anniversary update has to offer. So David, take it away.
Thanks so much, Stephen. This is not planned, but I can't resist going into interview mode for just a minute. Dean, I know you're still on the call, and
Yes.
I've got to ask you, when you were first planning the BT Speak and designing it and working on the original software almost 5 years ago, I know that you initially just wanted it to be a Braille and Speak type product for the 21st century, but did you envision it becoming what it is now and having all of these capabilities?
No, I really didn't. If you'd have said something 5 years ago that you want the product to be what it is right now, I would have probably dropped out of the project because it's just been a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun. Uh, it came along kind of piecemeal. We made something we thought was like the Braille and Speak, but then everything spiraled out of control, so to speak. Brian said, "Well, why can't we have a GUI interface?" I don't know if it's Brian or Dave Milkey or what. Then Stephen found that we could do speech recognition, and it just went from there to one thing to the other, and it just became a general laptop computer, smaller than a laptop, of course, but just about as powerful. And I never would have thought this could happen 4 or 5 years ago, not even 2 years ago, David.
Yeah, thanks. I've always wanted to ask you about that, and I'm sure people who are listening are curious about it as well, because even when I got into this project 2 years ago, after it was being tested, I never envisioned that it would do the things that it's doing now. And it makes you wonder, what is it going to do in another 2 to 3 years that probably none of us are envisioning?
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So thanks to Dean and to all of the other Blazies for coming on the call with us. And so many of you probably know me from the list or other online forums. I'm David, and I'm going to talk about some of the features that we've added and do a few demos of them. And then we're going to move it to some of our other developers to talk about some of the other features. And then after that, we'll take your questions if any of you have questions for any of us who are on the call. Chances are at least one of us will be able to answer them. So these features are not at the top of the list, but I do want to call out two things that we have added, particularly in the March anniversary update for the BT Speak. This is not on the top of the feature list, but I wanted to call it out first because it's very important that we had this, and that is a one-handed mode. We have had many requests from customers or even potential customers who have said, hey, I would love to buy this BT Speak, but I only have use of one hand, and I need the ability to type efficiently with just one hand. And we know we needed to do it, and we finally have that in the anniversary update for March. This to me is not just a cool feature or even an accessibility feature. It's a necessity. It's not a nice to have. In the same way that for us as blind people, a screen reader is not a cool feature. It's not a toy. It's not just a nifty thing that we use. It is an absolute necessity for us to be able to use our computers and tablets and smartphones. And I view one-handed mode on a device like this as a similar necessity for people who only have use of one hand. Maybe they have two hands, but they can only type efficiently and effectively with one hand. I've had a couple of former students in that position. There may be people with just one hand, or there may be people with two working hands, but who want to be able to type with one hand just on a temporary basis for reasons of convenience. Whatever the reason is, the anniversary update now has a mode where you can enable and disable at will, when you don't need it, a one-handed operation mode. The other thing that we have added in March, actually even before, was a major overhaul to Bluetooth connectivity. And this is important. The BT Speak has always allowed you to connect to Bluetooth devices, but sometimes there were some problems with some devices. And we received calls and feedback about it. And in January, in the January update, we did a lot of work on this, and we did get some feedback from users saying, wow, this is so much better. But we did even more work in March for the March update, or as we call it, the anniversary update. And now the Bluetooth connectivity is even more efficient and much less of a hassle, to a point where hopefully, depending on the device that you're using, it should connect via Bluetooth with no issues whatsoever. Obviously, if you are having issues, we would like to know about it, and we'd like to know more about the device and the symptoms you're having. But the bottom line is, if you are someone who has had problems in the past with some Bluetooth devices, such as headsets or earbuds or speakers, you may find that with the March update, things are really much, much better, and I encourage you to try it if it's been a while since you have. So I wanted to call out those two features because I think they're really important, both for people who use one-handed mode and also for people who connect to Bluetooth speakers. And many of us do, including me. I've got a Bluetooth speaker connected for demos like this, just to get some slightly better sound. So that's a hopefully good segue into what I'm going to show you, which is append mode and something else that accompanies it, called cursor tracking. This is going to seem very comforting and nostalgic for those of you who were users of the Braille and Speak or similar devices from the Blazie engineering days, like the Type and Speak or the Braille Light or even the Type Light. So nowadays, and this is still true with the BT Speak, when you type, you always insert text at the cursor position. And that is still the default behavior. But now, if you have installed the March update, you have something called append mode, APPEND, where no matter where you are in a document, anything that you type gets appended or added to the bottom of a document so you don't accidentally mess up what you've typed. And I'm going to turn that mode on right now.
Append mode.
And it said append mode. And there we go. And I did that, by the way. There are a couple of ways I could do that. The quickest way is to press an A chord with .7. So it's the letter A and the space key and the .7. This is a toggle or a key that cycles between the modes. If I press it again,
insert mode.
It said insert mode. And that's the default behavior, and that's what you may want most of the time. But if you're a Braille and Speak user, maybe you were, maybe some of you still are, we can now
append mode.
Go into append mode. Now, I'm also going to toggle something called cursor tracking.
Cursor tracking off.
and it said cursor tracking off. I did that by pressing T chord, that's T as in tango or T as in tracking, with .7. So now I have cursor tracking off. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the reading cursor is essentially now separate from the writing cursor. So I, in a sense, now have two cursors. This is going to be very identical to the way the Braille and Speak used to work if you turn its cursor tracking off. Now, why can this be important or helpful? Well, I've got a file that I'm going to show you as a demo. I have a file called interview.brl, and I gave it a BRL extension because I want the freedom to write my contracted Braille if I want to do that. So I have lines of text kind of like a form.
Top of file.
And I'm going to go to the top of the file, and on the first line,
First name.
it says first name.
Last name.
The next line says last name.
Address.
Address.
City.
City.
State. Zip code.
And zip code. Okay, let me go to the top of the file.
Top of file.
Suppose that I am interviewing someone and I need to take down information, but I don't want the information to be inserted with this form info. I want it to be added or appended to the end of the file. Well, this is no problem now that I've turned on append mode and turned off cursor tracking. So the first line,
top of file, first name,
says first name. Well, I'm going to write John, and I'm going to type a space. But you'll notice if I read the line,
first name,
it still says first name. So is John actually there that I typed? Well, yeah, it's just been appended to the end of the file.
Last name.
I moved to the next line that said last name, and I'm going to type in Smith, and I'll move to the next line.
Address.
And we'll just type in a fake address of 123 Main Street. And
city.
City, will type in a city. Let's say John lives in Philadelphia.
State.
The state is PA.
Zip code.
And the zip code, we'll type 19152, which is a real Philadelphia zip code. That's my hometown, by the way, so shout out to any Philly people out there. So what do we have?
Top of file.
Let's go to the top of the file.
Last name. Address.
There's my
city,
form.
State. Zip code.
But now let's see if all of my information has been appended after this.
John Smith.
Yep, there he is.
Main Street.
Okay.
Philadelphia. Pianian.
Oh, I think I wrote some of this in computer braille, so.
End of file.
Yeah, I did.
End of file.
So anyway, that is.
End of file. Pianian Blazie.
Oh, well, the number sign I didn't put in a space after PA, but the data is actually there. So that is the benefit of append mode. Now, if I don't want this, I can turn append mode off with A chord
insert
and
mode.
.7, and now I'm back in insert mode, and the BT Speak works the way it always did and the way that all computers work nowadays. So you can have the best of both worlds, and you can easily flip from one to the other. That is a demo of both append mode and what you can do if you decide to turn cursor tracking off. I'm going to hand it over to Tim. Tim Noonan has done some amazing software development for us. And Tim, I think you've got some features to talk about or demo for this call, so take it away.
Thanks, David. I take it I'm coming through.
You are. We hear you good.
Fantastic.
Loud and clear.
Great. Okay, well, why don't we start with the rewritten calculator. And I I failed maths in school, so maths isn't my forte, and I didn't actually develop the calculator, but I did want to demo it to you. You may know that the previous calculator had some issues with whether you were entering in computer braille code or literary braille code, and particularly you could start with one that would switch back, and there are a few other issues. So it's been rewritten. So I'm just going to do O chord
Options menu.
and
Open.
C for calculator to bring up the
Calculate
calculator.
expression.
And now it's asking me for expression, and that's just a fancy word for what it is that I want to calculate. Now, with space and dot 23, we can choose our input grade.
Literary braille.
Okay, I just, when I did it the first time with dots 2, 3 in space, you heard it beep, which meant that I was already in computer braille. Then I did space with dots 5, 6 to go to literary braille. So I'm going to go back to computer braille first
Computer
of all.
braille.
And I'm going to type something like 42. So a lower D and a lower B, and then a slash, which is an ST, and then 2, which is a lower B, and we'll hit enter.
Result 21.00.
Thank goodness that worked. Now, you'll notice it had 0.00, and I'll show you a feature that has been added to the calculator that allows us to choose the decimal precision that we want with our answers. Because, well, like most of us, I like to count my few dollars and cents. I like to have it set to 2 digits because that's normally what I'm working with. Now, if I go to, if I hit enter, what that's going to do is take me back again to enter another expression. So I'll do that.
Expression.
And I'm going to switch now to
Literary braille.
literary braille. Now I'm in UEB, and I'm a bit old school and new school, so forgive me if I get anything wrong. So I'm going to type a dots 3, 4, 5, 6, a number sign, and 4 this time. So DD. And now I'm going to do slash, which I'm hoping is dots 4, 5, 6 and ST, and then I'm going to do 2, and we'll hit enter and see if I've done this wrong.
Result 22.00.
Well, good on me. It worked. That's a big relief. So what that means is that you can choose your input grade. Now, if you're using American Computer Braille, sometimes your results may vary a bit. It just depends a little bit. So it's all about the grade and the table and so on. But in the old calculator, if I switched from one to the other, after I got my answer, what would happen is it would switch back to where I was before. Now it will remember the grade that you've got set with the input prompt, and that's space with dots 2, 3 or space with dots 5, 6. Now, what's interesting here, another nice new addition in the calculator, is that if I read current line,
Result 22.00.
it says result 22, and that's good. That's 44 divided by 2. But if I hit space with dot 1 now to move up by line,
Result
sorry,
22.00.
I'm in the results. So let me just hit enter, to switch back
Expression.
to the expression prompt. Now,
Expression.
if I hit current line here, there's nothing because I haven't entered a new expression. But if I hit dot 1 chord here,
44/2.
we've got 44/2. If I hit dot 1 chord again,
42/2.
42/2, and I can either edit this, I could do,
B. Number sign.
and I'm going to change this to 3. So I backspaced twice to get rid of the 2 digits that make up a literary 2, and I'm now going to do 3. So let's see what
Result 14.00.
14 is what is divided by 3 rather than divided by 2. So you can go to prior expressions that you've typed in, and at the same time, you can edit them, or you can just press enter on them. So I'll hit enter again, because whenever we hit enter, I'll just clarify because I confused things before. If I press enter here,
Expression.
it goes from expression. If I press enter again,
Result
it goes to the
14.00.
result.
Expression.
So when you're in the expressions section, you can up and down with dot 1 chord and dot 4 chord.
42/blank. 42/3.
So 42/3,
44/2.
44/2. If I want to hear the answer to that again, I can just press enter.
Result 22.00.
So that's really good, because you might have made a few calculations and thought, now, what is, sometimes you might get something that comes in monthly and you want to sort of convert it to weekly. So you would multiply it by 12 and divide it by 52, and then you'd have the weekly amount. And then you might be doing something else. You might be doing a budget, but you can come back this way to check that answer to use it later. Now, I did talk about the decimal places, how many decimal points are after the 0, and we can change that. So we have a thing called scale. And if you think of scale as how big is something, so we can change the scale variable to set how much precision we want. So I'm going to do that now. Now, I can't remember if I'm in results or calculations or expressions, so I'm just going to
Expression.
hit enter to make sure, and the expression so I'm going to type in scale, SCALE,
Expression. Scale.
and then an equals sign. I'm actually going to go to
Computer Braille.
Computer Braille here, and I'm just going to do all dots. And we will type 5.
Result. Precision set to 5 decimal places.
All right, so that seemed to work.
Expression.
So let's go to the expression, and this time we'll type 3.14159265, and we'll divide that by 2 and hit enter.
Result. 1.57079.
Okay, so that's half a pi with 5 decimal places. But I'm going to change this back.
Expression.
To
Result.
scale equals,
Precision set to 2 decimal
scale
places.
equals 2, so I can keep track of my dollars and cents. Anything else I've forgotten? Other folks around that I should demo in the calculator? Hello?
Tim, I think that's good. I believe that if you press H chord from the calculator, we do have a help file that should outline these various commands for people who might forget.
Yes, absolutely. So I can do that here,
Calculator help.
and we can just up and down arrow with dot forward will move down.
When you enter this general purpose mathematical calculator, you'll be on its expression prompt. Enter whatever you'd like to calculate and press dot 8, which you'll then be on the result. You can dismiss
Now
the
I'm just
result and go
moving
back to
down.
dot 1 chord Z chord. When on the expression prompt, exits the calculator.
So if I press Z chord or Z chord when I'm on one of those modes, it will switch back to the other. And if I can do Z chord. So there's a lot of advanced features in the calculator, various constants, you have parentheses. So it's quite a flexible tool. And it also does keep a record of your last calculator result. So if you're back in the editor, you can use the paste menu to paste the last result into the document that you're working on. So we're looking at some enhancements, but you can also call the calculator from in the editor with the run host command, and that's documented in some of the help files, so we could talk about that at another time. But that's the calculator.
Result. Precision set.
Now, should I keep going with a couple of other features, David?
If you'd like, if you are able to do it, feel free. I think people would be interested in whatever you might have to share.
Okay, so one of the things that was in the Braille and Speak that I always used a lot was the O chord followed by a number or 2 digits command that was in the Braille and Speak. So you could be in a meeting and you're taking notes. You might be a minute taker in a meeting, and then someone says, Tim, where were you up to with this task that you were supposed to do? And you think, oh my goodness, I forgot all about that. You could do, back in the day, O chord and a digit, and jump straight away to your reminders file and make a note of the most important things, so that after the meeting you could do it and people would think you'd actually done it when you hadn't. So we've done something similar. We're not using O chord, but we're using J chord for jump. So now it's possible to jump to any of the first 26 files that you've got open in the editor. So I'll demo this now. Now I'm in my BT Speak here that I don't think it's got any embarrassing files, but I'm not exactly sure because I have two units here, one for testing and one for general use. But let me just do a J chord here.
Expression.
Maybe I'll get out of the calculator first.
Calculator. Shortcut is C.
Okay, we're just going to do a
jr.txt.
deep escape to get into the editor. So this is an editor feature. So I'm going to do J chord here.
File number.
And I'm going to type in B on this occasion. If we do any letter from A through to Z or Z, we can jump straight to the 1st through to the 26th file. So if I hit either the number 2 or B, and I'll do B here.
Toto.txt.
This
file
is toto.txt, which is to do, not Toto.
Top of file.
And
blank. Number Toto.
and we've got the to do.
End of
And I
file.
might just go to the end of the file and say prepare
Demo.
in advance.
In advance.
Whoops, no space there. Next time.
Next. Time.
All right, so
Prepare demo blank.
that's in my to-do file. Now I have, if I go to jchord
File
and
number.
5.
Testing.txt. File
This
5 of
is
6.
a testing file. So this is a file I use for
Top
testing.
of file. App defgage.
Okay, you can hear a bit of the alphabet there. We were testing.
A. B. C. App defgage. A. B. C. D. E. F. G.
So that's just
H,
demoing
I, J.
the new spell current word. And if I
B. C.
want to check whether this is C or Charlie,
C. Charlie.
I can do .36 chord twice, similar to what you'd expect in another screen reader or other devices, and very much like the Braille and Speak did back in the day. Now, if I want to go back to the to-do list, I just do jchord
File number.
and I type in 2,
Toto.txt.
and we're back in
File
the
2 of
to-do
6.
list, and
Blank. Prepare demo in advance next time.
I was just in the line below the line I typed. It's remembered our place. You may, if you've had your Braille and BT Speak for some time, recall that it would not keep track of all of your files after you rebooted, or if you did a deep escape, which is like a soft reset of the device. Now it fully restores those files, reloads them after you reboot. So that's a very important feature as well, so that you can trust that all the information you have is exactly where you left it, and that it is something that you can always come back to. You can move between two different files and you'll be in the same place in each. So I think that plus append and the cursor tracking are real nods to the incredible productivity of the venerable Braille and Speak from back in the 80s. Stephen, did you feel like doing a demo of Find and Replace, just so I don't sort of take over the whole meeting?
Yes, I would be happy to take over.
Sorry, Stephen, I should have given you more lead in.
No problem. Yeah, so something else new in the anniversary update, it's not new, but it's a long time sore spot that's finally been addressed pretty nicely, and that is the ability to find text in your documents. Not only find text, but do replacements of them as well. So to demonstrate this, I've got a simple file open on my BT Speak. Let me just go to the top.
Top of file.
And we can just read what it says with ER chord.
Howdy, y'all. How's it going? Today is Tuesday, not Wednesday, and the day after that is Friday.
Okay, so howdy y'all, how's it going? Yes, I'm from the South. I say that. Anyway, we heard that today is Tuesday, not Wednesday, although over where Tim is in Australia, it is Wednesday, at least at the time that this is being recorded. And then it says that the day after that is Friday. Well, that's incorrect on both counts. So let's see about fixing this. So the first thing I want to do,
Top of file.
I did top of file. I'm going to do F chord for find.
Enter text to find. Literary Braille.
And you'll notice now the BT Speak says enter text to find instead of, I don't remember what it said before, but it was not as clear as this. And we're also told what input mode is being expected. Since I'm in a Braille document, I was told to type in literary Braille. So I'm going to find the word, how about Wednesday? All right, so I just typed that. I can verify that with C chord.
Enter text to find. Literary Braille. Wednesday.
All right, Wednesday. I'm going to press .8 or enter.
Today is Tuesday, not Wednesday. And the day after that is Friday.
All right, so I heard the line of the text that I was on. If I do current word with .25 chord,
Wednesday.
I hear that I'm on Wednesday. So now
Top
let's
of
go to the
file.
top. Let's see if I...
Enter text to find. Literary Braille.
So kind of like with the calculator, if I wanted to search for Wednesday again, I didn't want to type it, I could...
Today is Tuesday, not Wednesday.
Press
And the day after that is Friday.
I could press enter to repeat it, or if we have multiple things we've looked for before, we can use .1 and .4 chord to go through the history.
Top of file.
Now if I want to find, let's see,
Enter text to find.
did I ever write
Literary
the word,
Braille.
did I write the word Thursday in here? Let's find out. I'm going to type Thursday, press enter,
Search wrapped. Comma. Thursday not found.
Thursday not found. So that tells me we have not found Thursday.
Top of file.
All right. Now, I said that tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow is not Friday. Tomorrow for me is actually Wednesday. But for the sake of argument, let's see if we can replace Friday with Thursday without rewriting everything in the document. So to do that, I'm going to do F chord along with dots 7 and 8.
Enter text to find and replace. Literary Braille.
All right, so I'm being asked to type the text I want to find first. So we're going to type Friday. Press enter.
Replace with. Literary Braille.
Replace with Thursday.
Enter R to replace, A to replace all, S to skip this instance, or Z chord to exit.
All right, now we're being asked if we want to replace this one occurrence of Friday, replace all occurrences of Friday, skip, which just means don't replace this one, or cancel with Z chord. And in this case, there's only one instance of the word Friday. But if there were more, and I needed context as to what, or to where I was in the document, I could do C chord at this point.
Today is Tuesday, not Wednesday, and the day after that is Friday. Enter R to replace, A to replace all, S to skip this instance, or Z chord to exit.
All right, so I can do R or A at this point. It doesn't matter, so I'm just going to type A.
Replaced one occurrence.
And we heard replaced one occurrence. And it puts me back in the document. So now if I go to the end of the file,
End of file.
and read my last line,
Today is Tuesday, not Wednesday, and the day after that is Thursday.
and the day after that is Thursday. That makes a bit more sense. For the curious, if you're actively editing something and you want to, say, repeat a search in a given direction, you can also shortcut this. Like if you know I typed the word Friday and I want to keep looking for the word Friday, I don't want to have to keep doing F chord and enter. There's a quicker way to do it. You can do F chord with .7 to search for Friday going backwards up through your document, or F chord with .8 to go forwards through your document. And the find and replace also does support what are called regular expressions. Those of you who deal with especially like programming topics might find this of interest, but we won't go into the details of that for this demonstration tonight. Let's see. So we've got find and replace. There's a couple other things I want to show related to J chord that Tim was showing. So J chord is really great for jumping between all of your files, and I use this all the time now. A couple of things that he didn't show were the keys to move to your next file or your previous file. So we've had, or the BT Speak has had commands to do this pretty much from the beginning. So dots 237 chord will move to the previous file.
Welcome screen is open. File 1 of 4.
And dots 568 chord will move to the next one.
Hello.brl is open. File 2 of 4.
But if you have trouble remembering a lot of commands, and admittedly, these might be a little weird to get used to at first, if you want to just use Jcord, you can. So to do the same thing with Jcord, I can do Jcord.
File number.
Backspace will move to my previous file.
Welcome screen is open. File 1 of 4.
Or Jcord and
File number.
the spacebar.
Hello.brl is open. File 2 of 4.
Moves to the next one. And you can always verify. You'll notice the BT Speak now says file X of Y, file 1 of 4, file 2 of 4 in my case, because I've got 4 documents open right now. Tim, is there anything else about the editor that I am missing? There's been so many changes, I'm sure I am forgetting something.
That's a very good question. I think my offsite assignment and I have been doing so much stuff that I can't remember what other things are there. We've certainly improved the Where Am I command, WH-cord, to provide a bit more information about the file that you're in. It says the full path of the file if you do WH-cord twice. Some of these things may be in the January edition as well, but it does give you some more information about if you've got a mark set and things like that to help you move blocks or delete blocks of text. But I think we've given people a good rundown of the sorts of things that are in there. I've got a mental blank.
That's
All right,
okay.
fair enough.
One thing we added was a jump to line command. So if you need to go to line 12 or line 15, column 2, you can do that with the .8 and the letter G, or meta G. And the other thing, I think we started adding this in January, but there's been some perfections with this, or some improvements or enhancements. For the most part, when you go into the file browser with Ocord F, you are now pointing to the file that is open, which was true, I believe, on the Braille and Speak as well. So if you have 20 files and you're in file 10, the 10th file, and when you go into Ocord F, it used to be that you would sort of just be at the beginning of the file browser list, but now you are pointing to the actual file that was open. So that's another nice thing that's sort of related both to the editor and to the file browser.
See, David's our talking release notes because he writes the release notes. So we call David when we want to know what we've done. So I'll just make a couple of comments, David, on the going to, when you do Ocord F to go to the file browser from the editor. At the moment, it is useful because it does take you back to the file that you're currently editing. But there's, at this stage, and we are looking at this in a future release, there's no conversation going on between the file browser and the editor. So if you delete the file in the file browser or rename it, at this stage the editor doesn't automatically know that, so you do need to either close it in the editor or whatever to avoid getting yourself into a confused state. But it's still better than turning up at a totally irrelevant place in the file browser. And the other comment that I was going to make about this has eluded me, but if I think about it, I'll come back. Sorry about that, folks.
That's okay. No, that was great, Tim and Steve. Thank you both. Another thing we've added, and this is not related to the editor, but it's another feature that is both something that people would want now in devices like this, and it's also something that was in the Braille and Speak as an hourly time announcement. So you can now have your clock either speak the time on the hour, or chime, or speak and chime, or of course not speak at all, but you can also set quiet hours. So you might say, well, I want to hear the time, from the time I get up at 8 a.m., or whatever time you get up, until 10 p.m., but then I don't want to hear it anymore. You don't have to manually turn it off. You can set what are called quiet hours. So you can say from 10 p.m. until 8 a.m., I don't want to hear the time. And then you can have it only speak or chime on the hour when you want. That was something that you couldn't do on a Braille and Speak. The other thing I did want to mention, and again, this is not really on the top of our feature list, but it's important for people who speak different languages, is that the BT Speak is not just in English. It may have started out that way, but it's now in Spanish and German, and we have preliminary support for Brazilian, Portuguese, and Italian. There's still some work we need to do, but the foundation, the groundwork for that is still there. So I think those are some of the features that we've added. And if you want to know about all the features that we've added since a year ago, because the whole point of this is that we're celebrating not just a major update, but the first anniversary of the BT Speak, which shipped starting last March of 2024. So you can see all of the things that we've added with each update, starting from the March 2024 update and moving forward. You can find that on our website if you go to www.blazietech.com. That's BLAZIETECH.com. Go to the software update link, and you can read all of the various things, features, enhancements, improvements that we've added since last March, including the last update that we just released on March 1st.
Yes, that can definitely happen. It's just one of those things. It will take like 2 seconds to do. I was just waiting feedback.
And also, when it comes to capital letters, I know it can say cap when capital letters are there, but for some engines, if allowed, will you be able to have it to where the pitch gets raised on capital letters like it is on the computer and any other devices? For engines that support it, that is.
Yeah, look, it's definitely something we want to do. It's something that we aren't able to easily do right now, but we do see the need and the benefit. But there's a few complex factors that we need to work through, but it's definitely on our list. So, yeah, definitely.
All right, let's go to Mickey.
Hello, Mickey.
Yeah, I love what you guys have done before, but I don't think you'll ever run out of features that I come up with. But
That's all right.
so given that, couple things. One happened today. I'm dealing with this weird thing that I'm trying to explain to people, where I have this really weird noise in my head that happens sometimes. And so I'm trying to count the times in a minute that those things happen. And so that's kind of easy, because what I do is I opened up a new file and I just hit A whenever I turn on the stopwatch and just hit A whenever it happens, and then when the time's up, I quit hitting A. But it brought up something, which is now I have to count the A's. So I was wondering if that might be something that I don't know if anybody else has. Well, I can think of another scenario. Let's say you're running laps and you don't remember how many laps you've run. That might be another instance for something like that. So that's one feature. I'm not even trying to get you guys to commit to these. So I'm just saying them. The other one is, let's see, when the find and replace, I have a very strange situation where I find something, in fact, it's stars, like 3 stars, and then I replace those stars with the contents of a file. And I have not been able to figure out an easy way to do that. And so that's another possibility. It might be a macro, it might be an additional feature in replace. But those are my two things that I'm really kind of interested in seeing. But I wanted to say that I really enjoy, as a person, as I've grown up and listening to radio and everything, I really enjoy the radio tuner. And what I really like about it is that, not only that you guys have it, but that you can actually, have, we have different, well, two categories at this point. Um, and it would be nice to be able to add, categories, and new categories, but it's a really neat feature of the tuner, because it's very quick. um, I was even able to add, the Legend Oldies radio, to the program, because it wasn't there. And, I forgot to tell somebody to move it to the blindness apps. I don't know if anybody knows about Legend Oldies Radio, but it's, Bill Sparks runs that. And so, I like to be able to have my, radio programs in categories, and I just really appreciate that you guys have done that, and that it doesn't matter where you are in the BT Speak. Once you get something playing, you can just go wherever you need to go, and it just works. Just you, it works as well as the iPhone, and actually, in some ways, it works a lot better, because the iPhone's got this really bad bug right now where sometimes you're playing a file, and something gets hung up, or something, and it just repeats a couple of things in the file by accident.
Yeah.
So,
So I can somewhat address the issue with categories in the radio tuner. This was something I had wanted to see maybe 6 months ago, if not more. And I had brought this up to the developer who originally added it. And the problem is, and this is not the final word on this, okay? It's not to say that we can't or won't attempt it. The database that we're using, and we publicly let people know where we're getting the content from. It's a service called Radio Browser. The actual website is radio-browser.info. Now, they do have categories, but they're known as tags. And they're kind of on the surface, they're what you would expect, rock and jazz and classical and all that. The problem is they're not just a couple of dozen or so categories. People add their own tags. Some of them are similar. So someone could say, this is rock, or well, this is classic rock, or this is pop rock, or this is rock-ish, or whatever. And the problem is that there are so many of these tags that it would wind up being hundreds, not only hundreds of categories, but hundreds of similar categories, that it would actually be confusing. Now, we could, we could create our own and group some stations into that, but it wouldn't cover all of the stations in the categories. So
right.
that's the problem, is that we are working with another database, and they do it, but it's not necessarily not quite what people would expect. And I think if we added their, as they call them, tags, it might actually cause more confusion than satisfaction.
Right. Reason I brought it up, and also recording, by the way, but, the reason I brought it up is that there's a program that's still out there, and if you want it, you should get it, because it's been out there for years on the iOS, and I don't know for how long it's going to still be there. It's called OO Tunes, and OO Tunes does exactly that, and it also lets you record, which you can't do anything with the recordings but play them. but it does allow you to record. So that's kind of where the other and it actually uses the database that the older database that other people use, like the stream and
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, I understood that it might be a while, but anyway, I really
8
appreciate
o'clock
though
p.m.
that it's actually there and it works well, and it's fun to be able to just go listen to. It's like having being able to do DX without you can be anywhere in the world.
That's right.
So I appreciate
So,
that you guys put that in so quickly.
so Mickey, it's Tim here with your first question about counting the A's. If you're in the editor and you're just hitting AAA on a line and you're at the start of the line when you begin, what you should be able to do is WH chord dots 156 chord, and it should tell you what column you're on. And that would tell you how many A's are on that line. So that might actually
Yeah,
address your
that's a good
needs.
workaround. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Just to bear in mind that the first character is described as column 1. So if you want to get a very precise amount, make sure you're on the last A and
Hmm.
not the blank or new line after the last A, if you need to be very accurate.
Good
But it will give
idea.
you a
Because
good idea of where you are.
yeah, you can't, because well, and I realize you guys can't do everything, so I don't mind workarounds. I don't consider those workarounds, actually. I consider those, I don't know what the term is, but I appreciate being able to do it. I don't care how, as long as I can get it done somehow.
Yeah, it'll just tell you the line number and then the column number, and that column number with a number of A's.
Good. Thank you.
Great. And you
All
might
right.
have heard the chime, and that BT Speak said 11 a.m. That's Sydney time. That's an example of the hourly announcement that Stephen Clower implemented for us.
Great. We've got a number of hands up here. I'm going to go to Kathy.
Hi,
Hey, Kathy.
Hi.
Hello.
I love that you brought in the append mode. And my question is there an override mode?
I'm sorry,
I
my
know.
audio was competing with your audio, so I missed that question. Could you repeat
Oh,
that? I'm so
I
sorry.
love append, but now I want an overwrite mode. Like we used to do just an OW, and you could just override a character, which, yeah, I don't know if I'm just a sloppy brailer, but when I'm going back and editing, I often find I've got like weird characters in places. I just want to, well, some of them you just want to delete, but other times you just want to override a miswritten letter or
Yeah.
something.
True confession time. I have occasionally pressed that chord on a BT Speak. And of course, it doesn't do that because the Braille and Speak command set is also burned into my neural pathways. Tim, do you want to? That's kind of the editor is kind of your playground. So I don't know if you have any comments or thoughts about that.
It's a long time since I had my Braille and Speak. So is this a single, like you press a key, the OW chord, and then you type the letter that you meant to type? Is that
Yeah, so the
how
way
it
it
worked?
worked originally, and this command evolved, but originally, if you were, suppose I typed Tim, I wanted to type Tim, but I accidentally typed Tom. So I would move to the O, and I would press a command for overwrite, and then I would press an I, and I would immediately go back into the default append mode. But I think it eventually added a way that if you press the chord twice, it went into what was called continuous overwrite mode, and you could literally continue to overwrite at the cursor position from where you were until you stop. So that was
Sure.
what the Braille and Speak did.
So at the moment, in reality, unless I misunderstand, if you do a lower D chord, which is the delete key, because see the Braille and Speak, you hit B chord to go back,
Right.
but I don't think there was a delete key on the Braille and Speak. So if you do dropped D with space, that will delete the character under the cursor, and then you type the new character, and you're exactly where you left off, as if you just corrected that character. So in David's example of Tom to Tim, you move back with .3 chord to the O, and you hit lower D chord, and it will delete the O. You type I, and then your cursor will then be before M. But
Okay, but
continue. Sorry.
I'm sorry. But if you're in append mode, your eye will then go to the bottom of the file.
You may be right there. We had to make some decisions with append mode to do with what commands worked on where your read cursor is and what commands worked on when your right cursor. You see that the thing about append mode was it was the real design of the Braille and Speak was append mode, and other things were added in afterwards. Now we're going from the other direction. But look, we'll take it on board. I'm not, no promises. And that's the trouble when we do a fantastic retrospective feature, it opens the door to more and more. But you've raised an interesting point.
I wonder if the backspace, because the other thing I forgot about the lower D, and sometimes I'll do a backspace and then write over whatever it is. But if I'm again in append mode, maybe the backspace, maybe it wouldn't move for that just one
right. If you're
circumstance.
That's right. That was a deliberate choice, and I think the Braille and Speak behaved similarly, that if you are in append mode, and if you press backspace, it backspaces from the end of the file. And I'm almost 100% sure that the Braille and Speak behaved in an identical manner.
That's right. So you could sort of correct on the fly to just sort of backspace a couple of wrong characters and continue on.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Because that's part of the problem, I guess, with editing is there are times when you get some gibberish, either because you lost your mind or because you want to change it to a whole different thing. But anyway, I love the append mode. You really need something where you can just braille away and not worry about being in the middle of something else.
I will be doing a tutorial soon on the mark command and block commands, and we're making a few enhancements there. So when that comes out, you may find that will at least help you block the gibberish and get rid of it, or delete from where you are to the end of the file. So some of those things are there, but a bit buried. So I will be doing a tutorial to address some of those finer editing issues.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Thank you all.
Great.
Thanks, Kathy.
We're going to go to Brandon again. Brandon?
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you.
Okay. Couple other things when it comes to the Braille and Speak. Remember the fraction/decimal mode with ST chord in the calculator?
Actually, I don't.
That came in a later revision sometime around 97, 98.
Okay.
It used to have it to where your answer was either 0.56, for instance, or in fraction mode, it would be a fraction instead of a decimal number.
Okay. No, I'll take your word for it. I don't recall that, but I'm sure you're right.
And another feature was the GH chord C or A, where you could copy or append to the clipboard at the time.
Oh, yeah. Vaguely remember that.
And later on, there was a time when it used to say clipboard overflow OK, but in 99, there was a prompt that would give you, which would say insufficient space in clipboard. Continue anyway.
Right. So is your question that you'd like to see some of this implemented in the BT Speak?
Either that, or is there a plan to implement some of this into BT Speak for those who remember using such a feature like the clipboard back in the day? Or is it not needed anymore?
Well, the clipboard won't overflow anymore. It's much longer, but there's no specific plans, but we can look at those that feature set and see what's possible, but no plans at this point.
Oh,
So
and
many
as
things on
far
the
as
list.
and as far as backspacing is concerned, the only time backspacing will be different is if you had PC editing on, whether it was either on or on with insert at startup in the later version.
Right.
Y or I from the status menu.
Yeah. Of course, now we don't need to worry about
No.
that because now when you're
You got the
not
options menu, not the status menu.
right.
Or you know
So
what I
now
mean.
when you're not in append mode, when you're in the standard insert mode, that's really how it behaves now.
Oh, any plan on one other question before I mute myself? Any plan on having it to where you could change from voice to voice for TTSs that have multiple voices somewhere in the speech menu with Xcord? Because I know on the Braille speak, you used to be able to 2, 3, 5, 6 chord to go from voice 1 to voice 2 to voice 3, etc., etc.
So I don't want to make any promises or commitments, but I can definitely tell you that this has been in the talking / planning stage for quite some time as far as doing a redesign of the speech controls system. And that's one of the things that we have talked about doing. I think it will definitely make it easier for people to switch voices. Of course, you can switch voices now, but I get what you're saying. It would be nice to have a way of doing it a little bit quicker from the speech controls menu. And I think we've had an open issue with that for quite some time.
Oh, one other thing real quick. Any plans on the key click feature? You know, when you hit any key and it would just do a clicking noise. Like how it used to be on the Braille speak when you used to spacebar through the entries and the speech parameters.
Someone asked about that on the list. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess if there's a huge demand for it, we'll certainly we can do it because the product is for all of you. It's not for us. But I don't know. We haven't had a lot of requests for it, and the keys are responsive and clicky enough that I'm not sure if it would be as useful. That's not to say it wouldn't be, but it's an interesting idea.
All right, James.
All right. Hello. This should work now.
Yeah, we gotcha.
All right. Zoom was indeed set to the wrong device. So I noticed that you had turned that you had went back to insert mode, but I think you left cursor tracking off. So since cursor tracking is still off, but you're back to insert, where would your next character go?
So I think
good question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Tim.
So when cursor tracking only makes sense when you're in append mode. So what you can do is you can leave cursor tracking turned off, switch between append and insert mode, and everything will be how you left it, rather than us deciding to link the two together. So rest assured there's no downsides to cursor tracking being on or off when you're in insert mode. It only makes a difference when you're in append mode.
Okay, so when you're in append mode, if cursor tracking is on, then that makes it so that it puts it where your cursor is. But if you turn it off, then it'll put it at the end so you can read somewhere else.
That's right. So
okay.
If you're in append mode and cursor tracking is on, even if you're at the top of the document, as soon as you type a character, your cursor will jump to the end of the file. And if cursor tracking's off, it doesn't move unless you move it manually with .4 chord or whatever.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you type something and it's on, it will jump you to where you're typing, which would make sense.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. That really helps. Thank you. I don't have one right now. I'm waiting for the Braille version, but I've been very interested in this for a while, so I've been keeping track of it.
Sure, great.
All right, let's go to Shannon. Hello,
Good evening.
Hey,
First,
Shannon.
hey, first off, I just wanted to thank all of you for creating a device like this that is so productive, but also kind of goes back to a device that was so big for so many of us. My question has to do with web browsing in desktop mode. I have a site that I use pretty frequently that is organized in this huge table with like 100 rows and several columns. And I'm wondering if there is an easy way to navigate between, like, say, if I want to navigate through the table by a column or row instead of just like having to read the whole entire thing.
Okay. This is David. So the there's kind of a multi-pronged set of responses here with this, because I'm certainly familiar with what you're talking about and why you would want to do it and the need for it. The short answer is yes, you can do it, and it does work, and I have done it. The somewhat more nuanced or more complex piece to that is that at the moment, those commands are not mapped to keystrokes that are as intuitive to use as we would like. And it's definitely something that I think we need to, if we can, to if we're able to do it with Orca, to try to revisit it and see if we can find a set of keystrokes to map to moving by row and column. What I wish we could have is something that sort of like what JAWS has in the Windows environment with a kind of table mode. But that's something that's built into that screen reader, where you could go into a mode and then use your arrow keys, but instead of moving letter by letter or line by line, you would move row by row or column by column. And that's one way of doing it. But again, I don't know that we could do that because we're leveraging the Orca screen reader.
Right.
But what I think we could do is possibly find a way of taking those table keystrokes that Orca does have, because if you're using a QWERTY keyboard, you can do this. They have keystrokes to do it. We just need to map those to more intuitive keys.
So are there keystrokes that would let me do it now?
Sorry about that. Could you repeat that?
Just said, are there keystrokes that would let me do it now?
Yes, there are. I don't recall what they are, but there may be some workarounds to this. I'm kind of getting tapped on the shoulder internally by Steve Clower about this, so I'll have to review his message about this. But it could be something that we should look into and make it easier if it isn't already easier than, and I'm not aware of it. Steve, I don't know if you want to jump in and comment just in case there's something about this that I'm missing.
For those listening who might not be as familiar with what Shannon is asking about, so desktop mode on the BT Speak is literally it's a graphical desktop which allows you to run more mainstream programs like web browsers and Office software, email clients, MUD clients, that kind of stuff. And by proxy, the desktop has its own screen reader called Orca. It's sort of the Linux equivalent of, I would say JAWS, but NVDA is a closer analog. The way the BT Speak works with its Braille keyboard is that the letters, all the chords have been what's called mapped to simulate keys on, that you would type from a physical computer keyboard in desktop mode. And the issue is Orca does have keys that allow you to navigate through web elements, very, very comprehensive lists, actually. And the table commands, I don't want to give misinformation, but I want to say it's Control Alt Arrow keys. I may be wrong. The Orca documentation does include all of this. And the core issue is that there are only so many dot combinations that you can map on a Braille keyboard before you start having to do finger gymnastics. So it can be done. I agree that this should be done. Of course, I'm a beta tester. I'm not an employee, but that's kind of the more technical reason for why this might be a little more difficult right now, is just finding keys that make sense that aren't going to conflict in other areas, that will just make this browsing experience nicer. So the other thing you could do, by the way, in the meantime, is if you've got just a regular QWERTY keyboard and you want to just use that in desktop mode, you can plug it straight into the BT Speak and it'll work.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Sure. But you're absolutely right. We all visit, anybody who uses the web, even on a semi-regular basis, encounters websites with tables. And I do on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis. And I use table reading commands a lot just because it makes navigating large tables really easy for the exact reasons that you specified. If you've got a table of 100 rows and a whole bunch of columns, you want to be able to jump around from cell to cell or row to row, column to column, without having to read word by word or line by line. So what you're asking for is absolutely reasonable. We just need to find a reasonable way of making it work, as Steve said, without conflicting with other existing keys.
All right. Gonna go Michael Harris. Hey, Michael, how are you?
So, first of all, just when Mickey was talking about the radio tuner and happened to mention Utunes, a feature they have I'd love to see come to the BT Speak radio tuner would be I've now added lots and lots of stations to my favorites, and I would like to be able to put them into various favorite groups, like of my own making. So like a news on my Utunes app, I have a news group, a Utah group, like all my stations that are from Utah, because that's where I live. And, a sports group where these would be groups we'd create ourselves and be able to put various stations into them. Like, I don't know, folders maybe. I'm hoping I'm making sense.
Oh yeah. And this would partially address the other question that we had from someone else earlier in the call about having categories, which
True.
right now we don't have. But to your point, if we had this and if we could do this, then you could create, as you say, your own categories with the stations that you want, and you could call it, have categories by genre or state or city or whatever you think of. You can kind of create your own, and that would solve that, or at least it would address it to an extent. So I like the idea.
Okay. And then I had troubles logging in, so I wasn't here at the beginning of the call. I don't know if you've discussed the contest already. If you did, could you maybe do it again at the end?
We will at the very end.
Very good. Thank you very much.
All right. We're going to go to phone number starting 1269.
Okay, it says I'm unmuted. Hi, this is John Chernesky. I had a couple of things actually. Now I'm just getting started out, so if I don't get this right, it's because I don't know enough yet. But I use the user menu an awful lot. And what I've done is I've gone through every menu, every option, and tried to transfer everything into the user menu. So I would just have one like status menu like the old Braille and Speak. Well, sometimes if I forgot that I had entered, like let's say the settings menu, and I went to enter it again, it would enter it a second time, but that second time would not work. Now, I'm not certain if it's just because the menu loops around and I just bumped into it again, or if it's actually doing that.
So I'm not sure, maybe someone else has, but I'm not sure. I'm following you until you got to the last, the punchline, so to speak, because I'm not quite sure.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, let's suppose that earlier in my user menu, I had pressed, Control C and copied the settings selection into the user menu.
Mm-hmm.
Let's suppose that I forgot that I had done that and we were close to the end of the menu or somewhere in the middle. Okay. And I went back and tried to copy the setting in again.
Yes.
It'll copy it in, but then that second time won't work. And I'm thinking, okay, was it?
Okay, well, I'm not able to try to look at it now, but I certainly can look at it tomorrow. Now I understand what you're describing, because it should, if you copy something several times, then it should work, if it's duplicated. And
but maybe it shouldn't do that. If you've already copied it in once and you run into it a second time, whether it works or not, it's like, okay, I got too many of one thing in the menu. And then I don't know how to delete it.
So I think that, so I think it's supposed to work. So if there's a bug, I'll try to isolate that and I'll, report it. As far as being able to delete items in the user menu, there is a way of doing it now by going into a file and removing the line containing that item. However, as I am fond of saying, keep watching this space, because the process of doing that is going to get a little easier soon.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I do want to comment on your comment for people who may not either own a BT Speak or who may own one but don't know about this feature. This is actually one of my personal favorite features of the BT Speak, and it's something that I lovingly refer to as one of the BT Speak's superpowers, and that is the user menu. So the user menu, as John said, we've got a lot of menus and a lot of submenus in those menus, and you might have a couple of favorite menu items, including radio stations, by the way, that might be several menus deep. And so what the user menu allows you to do is when you're pointing to a menu item and you say, oh yeah, this is a menu item I want to get to on a regular basis, you can just press Control C to copy that into a special menu called the user menu. And then when you press O chord for options, followed by the letter U for the user menu, you get your own customized menu of your favorite menu choices. And so you might have something in the settings menu, maybe going into the hourly chime or a radio station or adding a station to the favorites. All of these things are accessible and available, but they're kind of scattered. And so you can create your own custom menu where everything that you want is in one list. And it's really great.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yep. And it's one of those things that, it may not be obvious that we have it. We're hearing some chatter there in the background.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. It's done now.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
So I just wanted to elaborate on that for people who are wondering what the heck is a user menu, because it's something that I think is very unique to the BT Speak, and I'm not taking any credit for the feature. I had nothing to do with it, but it's definitely a superpower of that device that I think more people should know about. So I appreciate you bringing it up. And I didn't mean to derail your comments, but I just couldn't resist doing that. So what
Oh,
was
no,
your
no,
other,
no. Hey,
what was your other
my other
comment?
comment was about my other comment was about the radio tuner. There are like certain groups of stations, like any station that has an app that they're switching from the website and going to the app, the tuner can't get. Like I got a whole group of Cumulus stations, for instance, that every time I try to add it, it's like station not found. I get a station not found message.
Okay.
And other than that, it adds a lot of stations that I can't get on some of my other devices. You know, it adds them really nicely.
Yeah. So, and for people who are just curious, it offers around 52,000 stations, and that number continues to increase. So, are you saying, are these stations that you yourself have tried to add into the database, or are you talking about stations that have already been added that you're trying to play that won't play?
No, stations I'm trying to add. Like, for example, I type in, like, one of the stations I can't get is WKMI. It's out of Kalamazoo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You type in WKMI and you hit the enter key and it will go and look for it and it says station not found. But,
Okay.
you know, it can be accessed by other means. And I think it's just the problem with it not being in the database or something.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. It just means that at this particular time, the station has not been added to the radio browser database. And of course, if it's not been added, it's not going to find it. The nice thing is, unlike some of these other radio apps that people use, and I have nothing against those other apps, by the way, I use them as well. But the one nice thing about the database that we're using is that if you can get the actual URL or the web address for the actual listen link, anybody can add a station to the database.
It can now I got something to do tonight.
It can be a little tricky to do it, and not all stations make their links obvious, so you may have to do a little bit of, I don't want to say hacking, but you may have to do some poking around in order to get those links. But the bottom line is, if you can get you need the link for the actual station, the home page or the landing page, and you need the actual listen link. If you can get those, you can go to radio-browser.info. There's an option. The label is a little misleading. I think it says new station, but what it really means is add a new station. And you can add it. Now the form it's accessible, but it's a little tricky. And it can take a little bit of doing and a little bit of patience. But the bottom line is that anybody, not just, anybody who wants to, can add a station to the database. And if it's a valid link, it will become available, I believe, within 10 minutes.
Wow. All right. I'll mute myself back. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Dean. Thanks, everybody.
You're
welcome. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Matthew. You are live.
Hey, just wanted real quick. I just wanted to answer. I think it was somebody. I think it was about the navigational tables in Orca.
Mm-hmm.
The keystroke, at least in the latest version of Orca, I don't know if the keystrokes are there in the version that's with the BT speak, but it's Alt Window or Alt Shift. Excuse me.
Yep.
Arrow, not Control Alt. So it's just clearing that up. I thought you might want to be aware of that.
Yep, you're right. I looked that up, and that does work in the version of Orca that is on the BT speak.
That's good to know, because I realized that the version was quite old, so I didn't know if it was in what version it was added. So I just wanted to point that out for anybody that was curious.
Yep, thanks.
You're quite welcome, sir. And great work on this device. And
I look forward to seeing future improvements. And by the way, thanks for fixing that annoying bug with the losing place every time, because I read my Bookshare books in the editor, and it was a pain to have to keep jumping, trying to remember what page I was on and everything else. So great work.
Right. So what Matthew's talking about, and I think this got fixed in January, and you're welcome. I'm glad we could do it. So when you do an ER chord, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 chord, which reads everything from where you are, either until the end or until you stop it, it used to be that when you stopped, you were not where the speech was reading. You were often where you started reading. And as Matthew said, this is a little frustrating when you're reading a book, even a short book, and you've now lost your place. So now we've implemented technically what some people might think of as line indexing, so that when you stop, you should be on the last line that was read. So I'm glad that you're benefiting from it and glad you like it. It was a very important bug fix.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
No
Thank you,
worries.
Matthew.
By the way, I just want to remind people that Brian Blazie is on the call. He is our CEO, so if you have questions to ask directly to the CEO, feel free to put him on the hot seat. Not often you get a chance to interact with senior level staff at a company.
That's right. If you don't take David up on that, Mickey's going to close out our Q&A. Go ahead, Mickey.
Where can I get the manual for Orca?
So I don't know if there is one file with it. I do know that on the web they do have documentation for Orca that is, divided into pages and sections, and you can jump to the section that you want.
Is it orca.com?
No, I doubt it. I don't remember the URL, but if you go into your search engine of choice and type in something like Orca screen reader documentation,
okay,
you will surely find it.
Okay, thank you.
I highly recommend that you type in GNOME, GNOME, Orca. Otherwise, you're
good.
going to get all kinds of orcas that are related to things that are not screen reader.
Like dolphins or something?
Yeah.
Lots of organizations named Orca out there, apparently.
Yeah.
Good, thank
The
you.
Organization for Reactive Carbon Antibodies or something.
Ooh, sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Let's see. The other
it's not a
that's
real
it, really.
organization,
That's
by
good.
the way.
That's the best. Thanks. I appreciate that because I've been trying to find I'm trying to learn about the commands that aren't mapped that I might want to use occasionally. And I was thinking about, as far as mapping and tables, a question, an idea that you guys maybe could ponder is, what if I hate to say it, I don't know how else to put this, but you could use the same keystroke depending on whether there's a table or not to do what you want it to do.
Okay.
So, if you understand partly what I'm meaning, then you'll work with it and figure it out. Like, you control, if you do next letter, maybe it could go to next column if it sees a table.
Right. Yeah, something that would be context aware.
Yeah.
The problem with that
is the way people create tables.
No, not necessarily. But the downside of doing it that way is that what if you wanted to be able to sort of zoom in on a line of text in a table to spell it or move word by word? You would still want to be able to have that freedom. So we wouldn't want to take that away.
No, you'd have to create a joystick. You'd have to create some switch that switches it between aha, I found it, and
Right.
here's
Well,
what it should. Here's what it was before.
yeah. Well, this is kind of what JAWS has with a table reading mode.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we are able to do that, so I want to be very
Oh
cautious.
no, I understand.
But I understand what you're saying, and as I say, I understand the need for it. Uh, so yep, I understand. But yeah, Steven's right. If you type in GNOME, GNOME, Orca screen reader documentation, you will surely find it because that's how I've found it. And
And
you
it's
can
ORKA.
ORCA.
CA. Okay, see,
Yep.
because I never even, I'm sure I could have heard it, spelt it somehow, but I
Yep.
never did, never had. So,
And it's a
okay,
very powerful screen reader. It is, as you know, I agree with Steve that comparing it to something like NVDA and to an extent even JAWS is justified. It's a very powerful screen reader,
hmm
and it really does a lot.
yeah, I think my biggest, the last comment, I appreciate your to letting me take some time. The the I think Thunderbird is getting better for me to understand, but it's just not consistent, and I don't even know how to describe it. You know, sometimes you can do 5 tabs and 3 up arrows and get where you want to go, but I don't, I'm not able to create that kind of thought process in my mind to get where I want to go. Like when, say I'm in a message and I want to go to the beginning of the and start reading the message, you know, dots 1 2 3 space don't doesn't go there. Um, and that's just only one example that I can think of. I just find that I'm really fussing around trying to get to where I can find what I want. Like I need to get that attachment. How do I get that attachment? Where do I find it? When do I do a control F10? Because the F10 doesn't always do what you expected it to do. And it's just I don't know who to talk to about all that, but because I know it's not all you guys, but somehow it would really be nice to have a Zoom conversation with the, with with the Orca people and you guys, or and kind of try to come up with some, because now that I got it to sort of working, it is not a bad email program. I mean, it's not super fast like a PC, but it's a lot faster than a Braille speak ever would have been.
Right. So
So
yeah.
go
Let me
ahead.
just stop you because I want to make sure we get to
Yeah, I understand.
other people. But I do want to say that first of all, we acknowledge Thunderbird is can be a very busy application. There's a lot that it's doing, and there's a lot of controls, and there's a lot going on. There are some things that you can do to hide some of that stuff. But the other thing I will say, and by the way, it's not just on the BT Speak. You know,
No,
this is true in Windows as well, in Thunderbird for Windows. One thing I will say without saying too much more is that not only are we aware of this, but you may find that future updates will offer some relief
Customizability.
for some of that. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the
It,
way, the voice that you heard, I believe, was Ben Blatchford, who
Yes.
we were
oh,
remiss in introducing, and
oh yeah, hi Ben.
I should
Hi.
I should be severely penalized for that omission, and I'm sorry. But Ben is A, he is our primary support person, and B, Ben is, I refer to him internally as our Thunderbird monster.
Yep.
Um, Ben knows Thunderbird really well on the BT Speak, and he's definitely a person to talk to if you have
Oh yeah,
questions.
we'd have.
But I will tell
No, he
you,
You're right. I do need to say he's been very good. And if it wasn't for him, I would have given up on Thunderbird uh, many weeks ago because he's given me some tips, taught me that I needed to kind of find a way to organize my email so I didn't have so much of it,
Yeah.
things like that. So I
And
appreciate you, man.
I can speak to the problem with 1, 2, 3 chord going to the top of the line. So I think what I've noticed is it goes by like screen from what I've seen. So it might not go to the top of the current of the message that you're currently reading. I don't know why that is, but maybe something either uh you know Tim or Steve or someone can look at.
It's probably scrolling,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's probably the amount that it's scrolling,
Mhm.
and they have no idea
Of
where we're trying to go.
Yeah, and guys, I don't mean to derail
Okay,
this
well, thank you.
particular
no, it's
conversation,
fine. No,
but
yeah.
we do have some additional raised hands. We have someone
Yep.
on the
Mhm.
phone,
Thank you. Sorry,
and
guys.
no worries. But
No problem.
be on the lookout because you're going to find that a future update down the line is going to offer you some interesting relief from some of this.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. If I say any more, I'm going to be even in more trouble. So, but be on the lookout. Ben, thanks for helping out with that.
No problem. No problem.
All right, I'm gonna go back to 1269.
Okay. First off, hi Ben. Glad to see you on. Second thing, what I'd like to see is a remote wherein I don't know if it'd be a key mapping thing. That part of it, I don't know how it would work, but it would basically allow the BT Speak to run an iPhone or a Windows computer or an Android, that sort of thing.
We've had very recently, actually, John, some internal discussions about logistically how would we implement this, and it is likely doable. It is very likely possible, but it would likely involve a lot of there's a phrase in the corporate world, it would be quite a lift. And in other words, it would be a pretty major undertaking, which is not to say that we shouldn't attempt it. It's not to say that we won't attempt it, but it could become a major project. But I will say you are not the only person to ask about it, and there has been a lot of demand for it. I was not anticipating the amount of requests that we have for it, but I understand why. Because if you could do it, then you could use your BT Speak as a keyboard as an alternative to Braille screen input. And same with Android, because Android has Braille screen input as well. And, you could use your BT Speak for that. But then we run into the challenge of commands for swiping to the next and previous element and making sure enter does a double tap and making sure that .7 does a 2-finger scrub on iOS. So it's a pretty involved process. You're really talking about turning this into a Hable or Oble 1, however they pronounce that. And it would be a pretty major project, not impossible, but I think it would just involve a lot of work.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you once again, guys. I'll mute.
Thanks you. All right, Gary.
First of all, thank you for this product. It's one of those things that in my days when I worked at the university, I would kick around with some of the blind students. When we saw the Raspberry Pi, the first thing I thought of was modern Braille and speak.
Okay.
And I just didn't have the programming chops or the hardware chops to do it. So thank you for this.
You are welcome.
Do you permit BT speak commentary on this?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Since it's not BT, I'm sorry, BT Braille.
Oh, yeah, if you have a thought about it, we'd love to hear it. It's a product that
Okay.
is not available yet, but we'd love to hear what your
Right. It
thoughts are.
doesn't
Yeah.
exist yet. That's why I asked the question.
Oh, sure.
Um,
What would you like to know?
well, um, have you settled on things like the display length, the display size, or
Yeah, what I can
things such
tell.
as that, physical factors?
So what I can tell you is that the first model will be a 20 cell version. It will eventually be followed by a 40 cell version. Now, I know everybody
One
wants to
other
know.
question. Are you considering everybody will want to know when?
You're right. Everybody wants to know when
But
and how much, and we just don't have that info yet.
oh, I'm sure. Will you consider a trade-in program?
Yeah,
I'll answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Because I know myself, I'd trade a BT Speak for a BT Braille in a heartbeat.
We will definitely offer trade-ins. That's one of the things that's very important to us. We've always, we don't want to leave customers with things they don't want, and we want to be known as a company that goes out of their way to take care of customers. So we will definitely offer some kind of a trade-in program.
That's all I need to know. Thank you, folks, for doing this.
Thank you for showing up.
All right. Thank you, Gary. David, you want to go ahead and move things forward with the announcement?
As we've said, this is a celebration of the first anniversary of the BT Speak. We've started the celebration by releasing a major, I call it a massive update. And of course, we're continuing it with this particular online call. But we wanted to do some other things to allow everybody to join in on the celebration with using the BT Speak. And we're going to have several contests or competitions throughout the year that will allow you to highlight these things and tell us how you use it. So for this first competition, or I shouldn't call it that, just a kind of contest, we would like everybody to submit, anybody who wants to, just a maybe 5-minute recording. It does not have to be a video. It can be if you'd like, but it can just be an audio, maybe talking about or demonstrating a unique way of how you use your BT Speak. It can be how you use it to perform a certain task at work, if you use it on the job, or at home, or while traveling. It can be something really simple. It doesn't have to be immensely clever. And you can send us a recording using anything you want. If you just want to use an iPhone with the Voice Memos app, or just press record, or if you have a media player like a Victor Stream, for that matter, you could make the recording on a BT Speak, because we do have, for those who don't know or have forgotten, we do have a voice notes app that you can actually make a recording right on the BT Speak. That would be actually kind of cool if you would like to do that. If you have an APH 4-track recorder, you could record it on a cassette. Actually, don't do that, because that could be really hard for us to actually find a way of playing that. But the point is, you can use any device that you want to make a recording, maybe demonstrating or explaining how you use your BT Speak in maybe a fun or unique way. Could be an app maybe that you've installed that we don't know about, maybe a game, maybe some other productivity app. Maybe you have a way of using the apps that are on the BT Speak in ways that we haven't really documented or explored, such as, I don't know, a way that you might use LibreOffice Writer or Calc or one of the web browsers that we have in desktop mode. Maybe you have a different way of using desktop mode that's a little different. Maybe you're an expert on the Linux shell and you use it to perform some commands that are perhaps not very well known to a lot of people. Maybe you're not really an expert, but there are just a few tasks that you really like to do that you think are kind of cool that maybe other people don't know about, that you would like them to know about. So just submit a recording to us, and you can send that recording as an attachment to info@blazie.net. That's info, I-N-F-O, at BLAZIE.net. And we will allow you to continue to submit recordings until the end of March 31st. And after March 31st, we will pick a winner of those recordings, those submissions, and you will receive a Tozo headset. Brian, I believe you've had a lot of personal experience with that, so I don't know if you have anything you might like to say about that.
It's a wonderful over-the-ear headset. I really like mine, and I've been using it for this whole call. They work great, and they're very, very comfortable. You can forget you have it on. It's a great companion for the BT Speak or your cell phone. Works quite well. One thing that David didn't, we ought to add is that the winner of this will be put on the website for others to share in.
And it's a Bluetooth wireless headset, if that wasn't mentioned already.
Yes.
Yeah. So something, as Brian said, you could use it with your phone, your BT Speak, whatever Bluetooth device you have. And again, the address for that is info@blazie.net. We are not judging this by the quality, the audio quality of the recording. So you don't worry if you think that you don't sound like a rock star. You probably sound better than you think you do, but we're not going by how good it sounds. We're just going by the quality of the content. We don't care as much about the quality of the recording. But anything that you've got, if you want to use a sound recorder app on your Windows PC with a microphone, as long as it's reasonably clear and we can understand it, as I say, you could use your iPhone or your Android phone's recording app, however you'd like to submit it to us, and you would send it as an attachment to info@blazie.net.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
You guys answered my question, the question that I had about the BT Braille, so that answered that. The question that I have is, I don't know if you guys have thought about, with the Braille unit coming out, if there may be a way to allow folks to Bluetooth, essentially using it as a Braille keyboard, Braille display, such as like the HumanWare NLS e-reader type of thing. If you guys have thought about supporting something like that or adding support for that, so then because you can use the transfer files wirelessly, then you could essentially create a file on your BT Speak, move it over to your phone, save it on, say, OneDrive or something, and then do the reverse if you need to and not have a computer.
So I can address some of this. I mean, right now you already can transfer files wirelessly. This is another, actually, one of my favorite features of the BT Speak with one of the newest updates. But it's funny, someone else asked about this, about can you transfer documents wirelessly between two BT Speaks using the wireless SMB protocol. I've never done it, but I can tell you, Carrie, you can already do it with a computer. So you could transfer stuff to a thumb drive or computer and then go to the BT Speak. Go ahead. Someone else had a comment on that.
Hi, David. This is Chris.
Hey.
So we did play around a bit with a local send, which is a seamless platform to transfer files between phones and computers, both Linux, Windows, also Mac stuff. And I've used it a bit. It works. We have not really tried to do any deep integration testing with the BT Speak. So it's something we're looking at, but it's very possible. But the advantage with this local send is it's very easy to use, but we don't know too much yet about accessibility.
This is Steve Clower. I can just add something to that. If you're in desktop mode, you can absolutely add network locations to your places in, I suppose you could call it the desktop itself. But basically, these are locations that the system will connect to when you start it up. So I've got a permanent link to, for example, a shared drive that I have on my network that has, my media and a bunch of other stuff. But the process to set that up is identical to how you would set up a BT Speak. So that would work. So if you wanted to transfer two files or files between BT Speaks, as long as they're on the same wireless network, that's the kicker. But if they are, then yes, you absolutely can.
Yeah, that's good to know, because we did get another question about that from someone else. It wasn't you, but it was someone else. But what I will tell you, Carrie, is that even right now, you can, if you had two BT Speaks or a BT Speak, and once it's out, a BT Braille, you could easily take, your documents and transfer them either to a thumb drive or to a PC wirelessly, and then you could go the other way from your PC. So it would be an extra intermediary step, but if you really wanted to do it simply and quickly, you could do that today.
Okay, that's definitely good to know. And my other question, like I said, was just I know that might be on the list is a lot of I know I like being able to use essentially a braille display with my iPhone or my computer, and so being able to use something like the BT Speak would give you the best of both worlds, because you can take it on the go, or the BT Braille, you could take it on the go and then go ahead and use it, connect it to your iPhone or your computer, and then use it as a keyboard and a braille display at that point. So you have that. Do you know if that's something that might be coming as far as allowing folks to connect the braille part of that to another device when that becomes available? Do you know if that's on the roadmap to be able to do that?
We know that there's a need. Do one of the developers a little closer to that want to comment on at least possibilities or eventual?
I'll comment
goals?
that we're open to all possibilities. We understand the need for that and definitely think it's important. But but it is, I mean, it will not be part of the initial release. It will probably come very soon thereafter.
Okay, no, absolutely. I would definitely not expect that to come out of the initial release. Can you provide some maybe more details on the specs of that if you have it?
I can't at this time, no.
Okay.
Before we end, I just want to remind people, you know, as Brian has said in previous interviews, we know how to implement things, but you know, we don't always know all of the features that people want. And this product and any other product that we come out with, and all of the previous products from Blazie Engineering back in the 80s and 90s, are completely customer driven. So much of what we have added and what we're working on and what we will continue to add, you know, some of it is from us and our ideas, but most of it is from yours. So please continue to let us know features that you might want that the product doesn't have. And things may be more possible to add than you might think. So please do reach out to us. You can email us at info@blazie.net. You can also go on our support forum, and you can do that by sending an email to btspeak, the plus sign, and then subscribe. So btspeak plus subscribe at groups.io. Even if you're not a customer, you can join just to lurk and see what other customers are saying. But if you are a customer and you have ideas for things that you would like to see, feel free to send those ideas to the support forum or to us privately at info@blazie.net, because again, so many of the features, just tons and tons of features, so many of them are because users wanted them. Append mode is one of those examples. You know, I don't know if that's something that would have been implemented by us on our own, but because we had people asking for it who seemed that, you know, they had a real need for it, we took that seriously, and eventually it got added. So just remember that you are the driving force behind these products. And we would like to hear from you about what you'd like to see, how you think it could be improved. And so please be in touch with us. That's about all I have to say, and I'll send it over to Brian for any closing comments that he may want to add before we say good night.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight, and we've kept you on this call now for 2 hours and 15 minutes. With that, thank you for all of you who made it to the end. We'll see you next time.